Good day, doctors. We are from Group 5, Bjmp 3033, Inventory Management, Group D. We will present about suppliers manage inventory. So I will begin our group presentation with overview of suppliers manage inventory in Malaysia. SMI is the process through which a supplier plans, maintains, and replenish inventory for a client. In order for a supplier to retain a high level of awareness over its product at the customer location, extensive information sharing is necessary.
I am AISHAH with metric number of 276854. I will explain on technology support in managing inventory. The technology aids in monitoring goods for adequate inventory management. The management will be aware of the numbers of stocks and some infos on stocks. For example, RFID tags allows for visibility into ongoing operations within the inventory management system and knowledge of current stock levels. With IoT sensors, the movement of products to become visible from the pallet to the packaging and all the way to the customer's hand. The data will be enable proper quantity of goods to be ordered and adapting just in time.
The challenge in managing inventory is to balance the supplies of inventory with a demands. A company would ideally want to have enough inventory to satisfy the demands of its customer and no loss sale due to inventory stock. On the other hand, the company does not want to have too much inventory staying on hand because of the cost of carrying inventory. Next, lack of commitments by the top management of the organizations is the major contributor to poor inventory management system. In most cases, for example, in most cases, the management failed to provide the required support to the subject of effective implementations of the inventory management practice. For example, the top management might fail to involve its supply chain partners in inventory management decisions.
One of the challenges are the responsibility to educate and train staff members and associates about your inventory and how to use it, which can be quite difficult in some workplaces and also time consuming. Also, the supplier is now accountable for delivering the inventory on time, which can be a burden to them. And lastly, market responsiveness is a very volatile factor called customer preference that has the power to kill your company, just like what had happened to Kodak. So the changes in client preferences or the changes in market should be effectively addressed by the SMI or supplier management inventory, and suppliers should replace the stock accordingly.
How well a company maintains its inventory frequently determines how successful its supply chain will be. Businesses run the risk of encountering shortages or having too much inventory without a good plan in place. In order to increase productivity or meet customer demand, these organizations should educate themselves about which of the several types of inventory techniques available can best satisfy their need. There are two types of management strategy. The first one is traditional inventory management system. Some example of it is the conventional manufacturing strategy CMS, economic production quantity EPQ, and economic order quantity EOQ. The other type of management technique is the non-classical inventory management technique that consists of material requirement planning MRP, just-in-time JIT, hybrid push-pull HPP, and lean inventories strategy. The step that can be done is, the first one is choosing an appropriate fulfillment choice. One of the most crucial inventory management techniques to grasp is selecting the exact particulars of this fulfilling operation. Given that the seller never see or keep the merchandise, dropshipping is one of the options. Instead, everything can be purchased and sent directly to the customer as sales order come in. In this scenario, they will purchase goods in bulk and have them delivered to a 3PL business. The 3PL firm will then handle inventory and send orders to their clients for a monthly fee. They also have the choice of self-fulfillment, which involves putting together their own team and facilities. They would be solely responsible for managing, transporting, and controlling their inventory. Next is by doing forecasting. Since it is tempting to take shortcuts, many shops would rather just estimate or buy the goods directly in the hopes that they can sell it. This presents a difficulty since it will put them in a situation where they run the risk of having either an excessive or insufficient amount of stock on hand at any given time. The historical sales data can be used in two different ways, short-term and long-term. Long-term is determined by examining what sales were like at specific points in the year to determine where sales tend to spike and dip. Short-term is determined by looking at the sales over the past 30 to 90 days to indicate their short-term sales trends and demand for the inventory that they possess. Reordering your goods must be completed immediately because if you wait too long, you will run out of supplies. If the supplies arrive too early, you will collect far more inventory that they will require. This is why, while taking factors like safety stock and lead time into account, each product and preferably each product variant should have its own reorder point. The next step is knowing when to place a fresh purchase of order. To cut expenditure on carrying inventory, they must decide precisely how much product to order at once. One of the greatest inventory management strategy that they can use is economic order quantity, EOQ. By using this calculation, it can help to determine how much to order each time. It will help them in finding a balance between low carrying and ordering expenses and still meeting the demand. EOQ is the optimal order quantity to reduce inventory expense, including holding charges, shortage costs, and order costs. Then, they can also done organizing and putting up the item in the warehouse. Organizing and putting up the item in the warehouse is a vital part of efficient inventory management. Employees should be able to easily find the product using the system by simply glancing on it. Bin placement with distinctive label must be made for each product variant. Keep things simple and avoid using complex terminology, and understanding it is what matters the most. They can choose to use numbers and letters because it is the best option. It is established a rule that new inventory should be placed at the rear of the shelf before being removed. The last thing that majority of suppliers desire is to always fill order with the most recent inventory. All the stock could therefore be left in the warehouse where it would be vulnerable to deterioration, fraud, and best before that. Enforce a first-in, first-out system automatically, which is a FIFO system. And with the FIFO system, assets are managed and valued according to the order in which they were produced or acquired. Then we can also do prioritize using ABC analysis. ABC analysis is an inventory management technique that values inventory goods in accordance with their significance to the company. It will enable businesses to focus more on certain products that can generate the greatest money for the company and will assist them in better prioritizing inventories. The most valuable sort of inventory is Type A inventory, which typically represents 20% to 80% of the sales or profits. Then is Type B inventory, which have regular selling inventory, and the remaining type of inventory is Type C inventory that does not sell as much as Type A or Type B merchandise and make the less money and is worth less. Conduct a physical inventory count alongside routine stock. Mistake will always happen when counting the inventory. Even with all the automation and inventory management strategies described, it is essential to frequently verify counts using methods like cycle counting and spot checking. They also can utilize automation and automate as much as they can, because managing inventory is a difficult task that gets harder as time goes on and more products are introduced. Utilizing inventory management software such as Counts, which maintains accurate inventory numbers by automatically allocating weekly cycle counting tasks, forecasting, which can help eliminate guesswork and ensure that there is always enough inventory on hand, and tracking that can assist in sensing inventory in real time across multiple channels. Next, I'm going to talk about collaborative program, which is the collaborative VMI, vendor managed inventory, that will also known as supply managed inventory with collaborative planning, forecasting, and restocking (CPFR). This collaborative program will help the supply chain achieve the objective of lowering inventory level and preventing stockouts. And it is a shared concept that requires involvement from both the supplier and the client. In addition to information sharing, it requires the partner to jointly plan a variety of supply chain operations. In an effort to minimize the problem with traditional anticipatory demand forecast, it will help the trading partners to improve supply and demand matching. It consequently enhances how ready and responsive organizations are to market signal.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Alia Natasha and my number metric is 276868. Now I will continue the presentation about the inventory control dimension. For inventory location are the places where inventory is stored and distributed. We can configure the storage location hierarchy with any number of labels. Example of geography areas, warehouse, mobile cart, service truck, rack, and container. Inventory locations are used with basic warehousing to determine where items are stored and issued from a warehouse. The main entrance is indicated by a location name, usually determined by its coordinate: warehouse, AZHAN, rack, shelf, and bin. This name or ID can be entered manually and generated from the location coordinate. For example, 01, 02, 03, 04 for AZHAN 1, rack 2, shelf 3, bin 4 in the inventory location page. In the inventory location page, we can see the warehouse layout in a tree structure based on the coordinate of the inventory location in a defined display format. It is possible to copy bin from the one warehouse to another and to create bin using a wizard. Before we run the wizard, we need to make sure that we have defined the default location name on the warehouse page. For inventory ownership, before making a final assessment of the inventory, management must consider a key factor, which is ownership. When ownership of an item changes, payment is due and billing begins. In traditional non-SMI business scenarios, ownership of an item passes from the supplier to the customer after the customer receives the item from the supplier. The customer must pay for the item upon receipt of the goods. In supplier managed inventory SMI scenarios, ownership can be transferred. In the case of the transfer of ownership, the change of ownership is dependent on time and consumption. Due to consumption, ownership changes when the customer releases the good for sale or consumption. Consignment can be effective in reducing stock out because the manufacturing ownership and control of the product allow the better stock out prevention, which complement stock out recovery and result in favor stock out. And then the last one is sourcing policy. The sourcing policy is used to define the product to be shipped, their origin and destination. The inventory policy is used to optimize the number of products kept in a given DC. Sourcing means finding the right supplier that offer the quality we need at the price that give us the margin we need. A strategic sourcing process can make all difference when it comes to the bottom line. Before purchasing goods, we have to find and check the supplier. Connecting with the right provider is crucial. When we make a mistake in a procurement process, it can be difficult and costly to reverse. In short, sourcing is a process of selecting supplier who will provide the goods and service we need for our business. It may sound simple, but the process can be complex.
Information-related dimension. Demand visibility. Many types of demand information are shared in the SMI program. The demand information that are visible to supplier are sales data, stock withdrawal, production schedule, and inventory level. It is argued that sharing data and inventory can improve the supplier's production planning, make it more stable, and increase its visibility. It also provides a better understanding of the seasonal change and helps to figure out critical times. The second criteria which measure SMI can be taken is that the product has stable demand. It means the forecast of product demand is under control, which it should be posted in a reasonable range because advanced calculated system contributes to accurate demand forecasting of the company. Stable demand has a positive impact on the supplier's forecast replenishment frequency. Access to information. The first point is the company's acceptance of information sharing because SMI mode need company share inventory information with supplier. SMI mode can reduce the uncertainty of replenishment times. Therefore, the trust between supplier and company is vital. SMI initiatives are information intensive and require effective database linkage among supply chain partners to facilitate information flow. In today's business environment, the information is needed to avoid any poor decision that likely to result in stockouts and production line disruption. IT configuration. Both parties have very high requirement for information technology because the instant exchange of information is the key to the SMI system. With internet technology, company can effectively track information for the products of business stores, purchases, manufacturers, or sales. The software also facilitates accurate pricing and helps maintain optimal stock level at all times. A good vendor-managed inventory system should include serial and lot tracking capabilities too.
Okay, hi, my name is ILMIYATUL BINTI RUSMI with metric number 278628. We'll continue the presentation. Okay, so the purpose of inventory replenishment is to optimize reordering of goods so that the business always has the ideal quantity on hand to satisfy consumer demand. Businesses may be at risk if they don't have a good replenishing strategy. For example, a company can run out of raw material that can cause a production delays, or a machine might not have the product that consumers require, leading to lost sales and customer attrition. Okay, so what is monitoring and ordering? Okay, so the replenishment of monitoring and ordering refer to how frequently the supplier checks the customer stock level to determine when to replace inventory. So the inventory levels can be regularly monitored to offer up to the information. Making the appropriate decision for inventory replenishment will help the supplier, which can lower the cost and enhance the quality of services. So when demand fluctuates greatly, the regular monitoring and ordering must be required. Okay, next is control limits. The term inventory control limits refer to range of inventory that managers define in order to guarantee stock availability, which is based on forecasted demand over respective replenishment lead periods. The inventory controls were determined by using the inventory control limits. High inventory levels can be avoided. So the minimum and maximum limitation can also be used to secure the buyer's access to the product. The minimum is the lowest quantity that should be permitted for a certain line if deliveries are to be kept up, while the maximum limit is the most inventory that can be stored. Going above the limit may be construed as carrying an excessive amount of stock. In the control limit of supplier management inventory, there are two limit controls involved. The specified target range should be both consistently reachable and suitable for planning and coordinating with other activities, and the two limits should be changed. The demand should also be taken into account when setting the two limits, or there will either be an inventory shortfall or an excess of product that takes up shelf space for the supplier. Thus, the minimum amount can guarantee that there is sufficient stock for client to consume. Okay, next is replenishment and shipment in decision. It refers to the decision that regarding amount and delivery time for replenishment that can be made by the supplier. They have the authority to decide on quantity, delivery times and location completely on their own. So the supplier would obviously have greater control and flexibility over the inventory control procedure. Not only that, the supplier can benefit more by improving the efficiency of their manufacturing and distribution processes, as well as reducing out of stock costs by having the option to give priority to customer requests, and this will create a great image to the supplier management in inventory.
The advantage of supplier management inventory is improved alignment of inventory with customer demand, streamline processes and lower cost, improve data insight, develop a good data sharing process, and lastly, have a clear goal.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is SYUHAIDAH binti Muhammad SHAFFRI, metric number 280388. So now I will talk about disadvantages of supplier management inventory or SMI. So firstly, one of the disadvantages of SMI is that sometimes the supplier can provide poor delivery service. This is because sometimes the supplier does not have proper facilities or equipment, lack of experience, and too small for the customer's business. Therefore, this makes the supplier to make the shipments arrive late. Sometimes there's a frequent mistakes of inventory. Thus, these kind of mistakes, it makes the disruptions of supply chains of the customer business. Next is limited options. So when a customer wants their business to go with SMI, they must form a contract with their supplier, and it requires them to follow the contract until the given period. So this can be a disadvantage, especially towards the customer, because whenever they feel unsatisfied with the service provided by the supplier, or they manage to find another supplier that can give product at cost-effective rates or more quality product, they cannot end the partnerships, and they must follow the partnerships until the end of period. So this can give the customers limited options of inventory. Thus, it is very important for customers to choose their supplier carefully. Lastly, the trust issue in SMI relationship. So, in order for the SMI to work, the customer have to be transparent with their company's data. So this can be a disadvantage because most customers are obligated to follow this requirement because they're afraid that the supplier may be dishonest or can be unscrupulous towards the company's data. So Clark and Hammond even said that many customers will only willing to share the company data if they feel that the benefit will outweigh the perceived risk. Recommendation. So improving inventory management is very important in order to have a more accurate inventory data and to practice to be more efficient. So one of the recommendation is to use a better data software in SMI service. So the sudden market changes can affect business, especially inventory demand. So with the implementations of a better data software, it can help the supplier to forecast their orders more accurately. So with the better data software, the supplier can sense the demand or view the real-time demand, which can improve the performance of the suppliers in managing the inventory of their customer. So it is very important for the supplier to understand the possibility of customer demand so that it can help the supplier to be more prepared for the demand and run their operations more efficiently. Next, outsource and use 3PL distributors. So outsourcing and using 3PL distributors can help managing the distributions of inventory through the SMI hubs more efficiently. So SMI hubs is a warehouse owned by the 3PL distributors and located near the supplier's customers. So with the strategic locations, the supplier can respond more quickly towards the demand and can store the inventories near their customer. So moreover, the supplier can also store additional inventories which as a backup for their independent warehouse, and this can reduce the stock out risk and able to provide even during the fluctuations of production. In conclusion, it is very important to improve SMI operation in order for the supplier to increase their customers' loyalty.
In conclusion, it is safe that supplier inventory management ensures that all level suppliers have the appropriate amount of goods. Technology aids in monitoring good movement in the warehouse and educate inventory management. The management will be aware of size, types and number of stock that are ready to be processed or to be sent.